All right, you guys ready to get started? All right, let's do this. Well, welcome everybody. We got some new faces in here and we want to welcome our guests. If you guys don't mind introducing yourself, Jesse Gomez here. Some of you know Jesse. He's been in the business for quite some time. So is it okay to announce? Excited to have him back. He's joining us. We're pumped to have Jesse back. Then we have Roberta Zuniga. Did I say that right? Yes.
I've been in the business for over a year and a half. Sold 3 properties already and decided to come with your team. I may stay.
Your style. I'll try not to say anything that scares you away here. And then we got Justin here too. So Justin, are you an agent as well?
No, I'm waiting for the DRE to approve my state exam.
Awesome.
But then,
So you're getting started though?
yeah, I'm getting started.
All right, well, you're at the right place. So welcome. Long John Silver over here, Silver Martinez. So trying to think anybody, so Luciano, he just came back also. So we got Luciano back in the house here. Shaq here too. Shaq's the newer agent who also joined. Yeah, might as well just introduce everybody. So we have Kathia here in the front center. Some people call her Beyonce. She's a great. And then we got Leanna. She's doing great work right now too. And actually, if you're comfortable with it, we can bring up her situation with her listing in Santa Barbara. She just took. She has an offer on it and looking for some help from the group. So we'll talk about that. And then in the back, we have Leslie Masucci. Leslie's great agent here. Very grateful to have her. Elizabeth Everson. Yeah. She's ready to rock out. Got there for Walk Smooth here. Good morning. And then we got Liz also working on her license. All right, see, look, already a great group. By the way. But as you can see, great energy, great agents, all different levels in terms of starting out. Have been doing it for a long time. I'm grateful to have you all here and the fact that you keep coming back and adding to this energy, which is phenomenal. So we want people who are driven. We want people who are open-minded, who are coachable, who want to work hard and do business the right way. And that's what we're here to teach. And a lot of times, I'll just start with it right out the gate. You know,
who is this guy?
Who's that? Jesse Gomez? It takes Silver a couple times to process things, so you gotta repeat things a couple times in the back, but it's okay, Silver. It's okay. We're good. So one of the skills, all right, so I guess just asking, as a real estate agent, what skill set or what skill is the most important thing that you can sharpen, that you attain? What is that skill? Listening. That's actually a great answer. Listening, which is a part of communication. A lot of people won't tell you this when you first get into the business, that your job is to become an expert communicator, right? To ask great questions. And really to try to be like Oprah Winfrey. You want to be a great interviewer. You want to make people feel comfortable where they trust you and they're willing to open up. And the more you can dig deep and listen and ask great questions, and it's really hard. A lot of us that are involved, whether you want to call it that you're involved in sales or not, sales isn't a bad thing. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not a salesperson because it has a negative connotation as if you're taking advantage of people. Comes down to what your intent is. Okay. So there's people who are very persuasive. There are people who are manipulative. And then there's people who are great leaders. And what's the difference between the three of them?
Communication.
Well, the communication could be the exact same skill set, which is interesting. Well, what about the communication with those three people? If it's the exact same skill set, right? So somebody could use these skills, listening, right? Your style, integrity, that's getting hotter, right?
The relationship you build,
Which is important.
intention,
That's it. It's all about your intent. Okay. So manipulation is doing something for my own best interest, not the other person that's across from me. Okay. So I can use these skills to manipulate them. It's very short lasting, doesn't last very long. That's when you hear buyer's remorse or where people start regretting, oh, I made the wrong decision. Or I did something I really shouldn't have. I sold a bag of goods, right? That's manipulation. Okay. Persuasion is when you do something, same skills, but you're convincing them to do something that's not to your benefit. It's in 100% in their best interest. Like it could be, you don't want to buy this home, even though they think that, well, I got to jump on it because the market's going so fast and I got to jump into this home because I'm not going to get anything else and I'm going to be homeless. So out of fear, they make that decision. We as agents and professionals know the market. We know that's probably not going to be good for their situation because we did enough discovery and we know more than just meeting them. And they said, hey, I just want to check out this property. You know, I saw your name on the sign, so I called you up. That's very superficial. It's not very deep. But when we discover more and everything we do is revolved around discovery, we get to know them, then we get to lead them through the process. Okay. So this is all about your ability to communicate. And we have to figure out how do we sharpen these skills? How do we get better? When we say get better at closing, that's not in a negative way. That's in getting results. People will naturally procrastinate. They're naturally going to hesitate on any major decision. Okay. That's a natural thing. That means that they're actually considering moving forward. So when you hear that an objection comes out, and do we all know what an objection is? Have you heard of an objection? Okay, when objection comes out, their hesitation of moving forward, all that means is they're processing a very major decision. So the reason why I love objections, not just in confidence of knowing how to overcome them, but because usually the next thing after an objection is what? Close. Okay, they throw up their objection, you handle their objection right, you will typically close them if you do it the right way. That's why for me, I look forward to objections because now we're getting to it. Now we're getting to the meat of it, right? Now we're getting to, they're actually seriously considering making a move. They're seriously considering committing forward on writing an offer or signing a listing agreement with you. So now they're going to hit you because they're putting up some resistance. They're like, well, wait a minute. I'm not just going to sign with you. You're the first person that I've met. Per that, I'm always supposed to talk to 3 people before I make any decision. I'm always supposed to talk to 3 loan officers before I make a decision, right? They're taught this. This is natural. This is nothing against you personally. This is about us understanding the process. And the better we understand it, the better that we're prepared for it. Okay, does that make sense? So that's some of what we're going to talk about here today. And if there's any other challenges that anybody's going through, we want this to be a very open room. And what happens in this room stays in this room, right? No judgment, no anything. We're all learning. No matter how long you've been doing this, we're all learning here. Okay. So the more we all collaborate, the better it is. And you'll see that there's members of this office that are better at teaching this than I am because of what they all do. But we can learn from somebody brand new just as well as somebody who's been in this business 20 plus years. Okay. Something we all have to offer. No question's a dumb question. So we're going to focus on the listing presentation. We're going to get into it. But even before that, rates are up. We all know, have you all heard where the interest rates are right now? 8, getting close to 8%. Mid sevens and up. Have you spoken to anybody since Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over the weekend?
Thursday, I did.
Yeah, Thursday they were already hitting 7s. 7.5% to 8% right now. That's what I heard over the weekend. It's just crazy. So it's getting back up there again. So what does that mean? We've been talking about the urgency to get listings on now because we don't know what the future is going to bring. We know just based on those charts and what we went over in our last office meeting that the peak of the market was really January, February, March of last year, right? We saw it peak out and it's come down some, but now it's starting to come back up a little bit. But was that the true peak of the market? And if it was, with the rates, the biggest fear, the biggest concern I've personally have about this listing sellers market that we currently have are the rates going up because that impacts affordability. Now we still have many cash buyers out there. We got buyers that got a lot of money down, but for everybody else who needs to finance, it's going to pump the brakes even more. Okay. So that's my fear and my concern. So if you have anybody on the fence in terms of listings, we got to go hard for listings right now, hard. And if they're on the fence, you got to tell them to get it out there. And what's even scarier is we still can't guarantee, even though we have to speak with a confidence, because if we doubt the two fundamental things, and for everybody who's starting out, there's two beliefs that you have to have when you go on a listing presentation. What are those two beliefs?
I'm the best.
You're the best,
I
okay?
can
You
get the
can't
job
think,
done.
and that you can get the job done. Okay, Leanna's gonna give us all the answers today, so I'm just gonna keep firing it over here. So those are the two fundamental beliefs. You gotta believe you're the best person for the job. You can't think you're second best, third best, fifth best, or you're 10th in the office or 15th in the office. You gotta know you're the best. And how can you know you're the best if you're a brand new agent starting out? How do you know you're the best? Roberta, how do you know you're the best when you go to a listing presentation?
The way I know I'm the best, and this is just my own experience, and I'm just feels to be comfortable with what I'm doing,
Uh-huh,
because it's all new for me. But I get there early and I set up, I make sure I get familiarized with the home, the schools,
uh-huh,
boys and girls,
like community.
community, yeah, a lot of stuff like that. So when I'm with the client, I share those things with them.
That's great.
I put some Motown music on, put some kind of music on.
I love
right?
I love it, right? I love it, right,
Oh,
right.
Coffee, Mexican bread, donuts, whatever it takes.
I love it.
And I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm putting my hand up and saying, I'm a business guy from Mixed Realty. My business partner is Jesse Gomez,
There you go.
and that's what I've been doing.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for just being open and confident and sharing it. And it is your confidence. Go ahead.
And another thing that, I realize is like the market, the houses aren't selling as fast and the interest rates are going up.
Right,
Thank God I have a barber shop and DJ and I could fall back on, but
right,
I realized one thing is, hey, wait a minute. What about all those people in February that were getting beaten up by the people that have cash?
uh-huh,
So I'm going after those people.
right,
And I went back to my first open house, where it was in February, and I snagged three clients from that paper. Because they didn't have agents, right? Because we're told, make sure you get comments from each person that comes in. So
Right.
when I called D Meadows, I
uh-huh,
said, D Meadows, I met you in February.
right,
Open house, I sold a home, but we have some new listings, and I don't have any new listings, but I'm
Right.
just saying it, right?
right,
Because I have Jesse Gomez that's gonna be
right.
right there to back. So we have an offering right now.
That's awesome.
Have an offering.
Oh, yeah, and a great, just to piggyback off what she shared. So she called up people from an open house back in February, right? You've been getting beat up. Come on in. You got a full chair in. Yep. So she followed up from February. This is a great practice. Check your open houses out from January, February, March, earlier part of the year. And the question you ask them is, have you found the home you're looking for? That's how you start it. Okay. Hi, this is Brandon from Century 21. Just following up, I met you at an open house back in January, right? Just checking with you.
You told me you were living with your girlfriend.
There you go.
Are you still living there?
Even better when you have some notes on them, right? Because now they know you were listening. Now they know you care. Who else do you think has followed up with that person from any of the open houses they've gone to?
Certainly not me.
Zero. Definitely not listening. She hasn't. So you already know you got one up there. Okay. Hey, we keep it, you're gonna see, we all keep it real. Keep it real. There's no fake, there's no front here. Nobody tries to act better than anything. That's the best way to be, okay? Just be transparent.
You got hot.
It is, and it's already warm in here. I try to get this thing kicking. You're gonna need a fan just for me right here. No, that's great. So yeah, so following up is big. And these are things as you're looking at, because I've heard it already. There's things that are slowing down a little bit, but don't get caught up in it. Don't freak out about that, okay? We have control. It doesn't matter what's happening in the marketplace. What we have control over every single day is what we do. And what we need to protect is our time that we actually prospect and communicate with people. So who are you going to follow up with? Start creating those lists. Follow up with past open houses that you've gone to. Look through those lists, start calling them up. Start off with, just calling up, following up with you, checking to see, have you found the home that you're looking for? Most are going to say no. Well, that's great. Share with me, what is it that you're looking for? Because we know some properties that are actually coming up that aren't on the market yet, which we do. We all in this room know of the listings that are coming up that aren't on the market yet. So you talk to your colleagues. It's also you look on the listing board to see what's coming soon. The other board we haven't put up yet is buyers needs and as well as the upcoming listings, which we have on there, but I want that for everybody to see and use. So when you work an open house, these are ways that you capture buyers. We've talked about switchers. And for the new ones that are in here, you work a particular open house, you got to know what else is available in the near neighborhood that may have a pool that yours doesn't have a pool, or maybe 2-story and yours is single story, or vice versa. You're in a 2-story and you got to know about the single stories that are available. You got to know on the top of your head. Okay. So while you're asking questions and you're discovering, one of the very first questions are, what brings you into this open house here today? Or how'd you hear about this open house? Did you see the signs? Did you see it Redfin, right? How did you find out about this open house? We got to discover it, because if they're familiar with the neighborhood, odds are that they're probably a seller, right? Odds are, but we got to ask more questions. We can't just assume they're a seller because they're familiar with the neighborhood. Oh, that's great. So do you live in the neighborhood? Yes, I do. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Do you own or do you rent? Right? Oh, we own. We've been here for 16 years. We love the neighborhood. Well, why are they in the open house? You know, what are you thinking? They're sizing it up. They're checking it out. They're seeing how you present the home. So you don't want to start working a switcher in that situation with saying, oh, well, if you're not interested in this, let's check another property out. Because if that is a seller who's interviewing you without you knowing they're interviewing you, you lost them. Okay. So we got to ask smart questions. We got to listen. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. But for the longest time, until I heard a top listing agent come and speak at one of our office meetings and share, when they work open houses, they're only looking for sellers. They don't look for buyers. They're only looking for sellers. That's a change of focus. That's a change of the questions that you're asking. Doesn't mean that they don't work with the buyers, but their focus is on the sellers. So typically they'll have another agent with them that will focus on the buyers. But those listings means more inventory. The listing agent, right? And becoming a strong listing agent is the employer. The buyer's agents are employees. And what I mean by that is if you have the listing, how many agents are in this market out here? 2,000 plus, right? What do we need right now? Inventory, right? We have no inventory. We have no business. You have inventory, you have listings. Guess what? You're going to capture other buyers. You're going to capture other sellers. You have the bread and butter of this business, but you have to have listings. Listings gives you the ability to control your time. You can spend about 3 hours in preparing, as you were talking about, Roberta, how you come prepared. That's what we teach. And that's what we talk about the listing presentation is how do you prepare? How can you feel confident that you are the best agent for the job? Can you out hustle somebody else who may be running a team, right? That you don't know who you're going to get. Do you know that you're actually going to work with that person? Or are you going to work to somebody who they hand you off to, right? There's a way to overcome a big team. There's a way to overcome the #1 agent in the world. You have to know what their strengths and weaknesses are versus yours. And we don't talk bad about them, but we talk good about us that is better than their weaknesses. Does that make sense? So we do focus and we don't talk about me, but we get them to choose us over. Do you need a plug? You got it?
Good, yeah.
Okay. We do get them to pick us over the
How do
competition.
you get them to pick you? You were talking about this.
I'm glad you asked that, Roberta. We're gonna get into that. So that's actually, we'll jump into the listing presentation right now. Well, before, so I'm gonna write it on the board because I had mentioned, because I really want to go over this situation really quick. And it may be a little bit longer than that, but Leanna, are you available to share it?
Yeah.
Okay. So Leanna just took a listing in Santa Barbara, 255 million. Okay, it just hit the market on, was it Wednesday? At first open houses this weekend, you had was about 30 groups both days. Okay, she's got one offer that's come in so far. All cash, 2.4 million. Okay, so we're keeping all this confidential here, okay? 2.4 million, all cash. They put a short expiration for today. Remember, she's at 255, that's 150 under asking price, okay? And they originally were gonna list higher, right? Like 27, 28? And then listed competitively at about 255. Now, in terms of comps, I know it's a hard one to comp out. What do you have comp wise around you?
I'm actually one of the lowest, not lowest price, but I'm one of the lowest priced 4 bedrooms in Santa Barbara.
Okay, one of the lowest priced 4 bedrooms. So got a lot of action.
Yeah.
In terms of showings, how many showings do you have set up right now after the open house?
I have one today at 12:30.
One today at 12:30.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you, what steps are taken before you speak to the seller? What steps are taken? What do you do if you're in that situation? How are you gonna exhaust every option? Because you can go a couple different ways. You can say, okay, let's take our chances and hold market. And we just got this one listing, but we just talked about the rates going up. And I've had a situation where I got an offer 10 under asking price 2 days on the market. It was at 6:30, it was in Mission Oaks, came in at 6:20. We countered back full price at 6:30. 2 days, they walk. 6 months later, not another single offer in 6 months. It appraised eventually at 6:15. But I didn't get anything for 6 months. Then it goes through all the holidays, then into January, and I'm just trying to, and it expired like January 7th, and they're ready to let it expire. They thought it was my fault. The home didn't sell, right? 2 days on the market. It's best offer that was gonna come in. Luckily, after it hit about January 4th, there was another agent who does a good amount of business, wrote an offer at the same price. So we got an offer, right? But then I still had to extend it out. Still had to figure out how to overcome it. The whole point is that first offer could be the best offer. She's had over 60 showings over the weekend, or over 60 groups. Showing agents, would you say was out of that group?
But none of the Santa Barbara agents accompany their clients.
So they just send them all?
Yeah.
So how many would you say?
Serious ones, probably 6 serious
Okay.
looking. It's a street where a lot of people walk and bike, so we got a lot of people just coming in just to
Okay.
see it and be nosy.
So just visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you'd say about 6 or so?
Yeah, solid, like qualified.
So what are your thoughts? What initial thoughts by anybody? Any steps that they would take? Yes. Elizabeth?
Obviously presents to the seller, but
Mhm.
I personally, I would counter it.
Mhm,
I would not accept it just because they're saying the offer deadline is today.
mhm.
That's a dick move. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
If
know,
they
that's kinda
want
what I
the
thought too.
house, if they're serious about the house, then they're gonna, it just came on the market. You explain it to the agent. I mean, just came on the market. And here's the counter. We're happy to counter you.
Mhm.
But I
What would
would,
you counter price then? If we're 150 off?
I would go back to the seller and say, where do you want to
Yeah.
counter?
Yeah.
It's ultimately the seller. I would make a recommendation,
Mhm.
maybe take 10, I mean, if they, because don't they need to be under contract in order to buy a house?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. They've got their hands tied, maybe go $10,000 less, but in Santa Barbara, it's too new on the market and it was a holiday weekend.
Right.
I
Well, and
think,
I looked at every day, everyone around that price point and higher, days on market, everyone's touching 26 to almost 280 days.
Right.
At that price point, it's,
that's-
yeah. Oh, yeah, we would never accept it right
Yeah.
away. Hell no.
but
Yeah.
just, I mean, I don't know. I really don't like when agents do that, especially on a holiday weekend, like, give
Yeah.
them a minute.
Well, miss, don't come to the class when I talk about writing offers and short expirations. I don't, it's not like- no, but it is, it's an approach. So the same thing happened to me on the Lawnwood one that I had all the showings. They wrote all cash, they wrote 20 over. So we were at 740, they wrote 760, put less than a day expiration.
If you're over, that's a different story, but if you're $150,000 less, that's where.
But what it is, it's a feeler to see how you respond right out the gate. Now, does it leave a bad taste? 100%, right? And this one didn't leave a bad taste, right? But I had told them up front, I already had another 25 showings set, right? We had 40 showings in the 3 days. So when they submitted that offer, it's like, I can't tell my client to say yes to this.
Right.
When we know we have 25 showings set.
Mhm.
And this is when we're gonna talk about pricing strategy and pricing intelligently, right? Because based on that already, you can look at this a couple different ways. It's been on the market. Yes, it was a holiday weekend, but it's been on since Wednesday. Okay, now we've already hit Monday, Tuesday. So if you compare it and it's an apple and an orange. You got something that's in the sweet spot of where most buyers are at 740,000 versus a much smaller pool of buyers who are looking in that 2.5 million. It's not, you can't compare the two. But what we can, based on the formula of what we teach, that if you get a lot of showings in that first week, a lot of showings and no offers, what does that mean? You're overpriced, okay? So she may, even though it's a tougher price point, she still had over 60 groups of people come in over the weekend. She still had showings before the weekend, right? But most waited till the open houses. So it's a hard test on this one, on this example. For me, my gut is telling me a little bit longer, but I future pace, that's why I wrote future pace up there. And we future pace them to let them know that we still need to take this offer very seriously. Okay, but we need to ask them, as Elizabeth said, to give us a little bit more time. We just hit the market, You wrote 150,000 under asking price. We respect that it's an all cash and that you're serious. We need flexibility, so that's an important thing. And you future pace them for that. We need time because we need to find our other home of choice. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay. And this is talking from experience. I took a listing in Newberry Park. After 3 days being on the market, I got an offer. I'm listed at 935. I got an offer at 909, 20% down. In my eyes, it's a good offer. You know, for what's going on, even though, because we the value a little bit more. They felt that it's, you know, fresh on the market. No, we want to wait before we respond. We'll respond next Monday. We want another open house. I knew that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so I went back to the agent and said, have your buyer just hold on until next week, and it's just too new. Well, we don't know what's going on the buyer side. You know what's going on the seller side,
Right.
but you don't know what's going on the buyer side. He had a choice whether he got into something or he signs a new lease. Well, guess what? He signed a new lease. What happened to my buyer now?
Yeah.
Gone.
And
So now the weekend happened. We got zero right now, so it's ghosting right now.
and how long have you had
This
it
is
now?
only now on the market 14 days now. So now with 14 days, that's fine. No risk. I'm not risk of losing it, but now I have to put on the grind to
Right.
get a price reduction. So
Right.
that's the strategy now. Hey, we lost the buyer, we got no more. So that's what that's just the nature of the beast.
It is, but that's a very important and relevant example that's happening right now that we need to be careful. The market changes that quick. It changes that quick. In a week to 2 weeks, it went white hot, right? In a week to 2 weeks with the rates announcement being at where it's at, it can go cold like that. Okay, it's all about buyer confidence. And if the buyers think, if they smell some blood, they're sharks. They're going after it. They're trying to work whatever because they've been overpaying for so long, especially over the last couple months. They're overpaying. So when they get an opportunity, they're striking. And that's why it's like, yes, we don't like it, right? We don't like notice buyers to perform. We don't like short expirations. We don't. But somebody who's looking to close and wrap it up, because what happens if we give it time? Right. What happens? Right. But what happens if we give it time?
Agent is looking at it from their buyer's point of view. So
Right.
to me, that's a smart move. To
Right.
me, like, I think that, okay, I call you up, you have no offers? Okay, well, why go either at asking or above? Like,
Right.
it makes no sense to do that. If you've had an entire weekend, you've had 60 people go through
Right.
and there's no offer. To me, I would write lower.
Yeah.
And I would put an expiration because, I feel like that as far as if you get into the mindset of the buyer's agent, that's a smart move.
It is, but it's also, and we have to be careful with even when we say we would or I would, it's as much as, I love what Elizabeth said right out the beginning. She said, find out what the seller wants to counter back at. Take it off of you, right? Even
Right.
with writing and advising, because the important question, and this is something my dad taught me from day one, is this the guy to have house? Or are you okay if you lose this house? You get one crack, you get one first impression. And if you hit a property that is gonna be a multiple offer situation, and it's gonna hit that because they're at the sweet spot in terms of where they're priced at, you only get that one. You can't expect a counter. You can't expect to make, oh, well, let's do something else. It leaves a taste in their mouth. And that's the part we have to be careful with. But I see it. And guess what? In some opportunities, if a seller's desperate enough, they can bite on that. And you could have just killed it for your client. You know what I mean? So you ask as many questions as you can and get as much as you can get. What's that?
I'm trying to understand what you're saying right now.
Gotta have house?
When they smell blood.
Smell blood. All right. That's opportunity. So when the market starts shifting, especially when it's been going up and up and up and up for so long, think of how many, especially January, February, March of last year, when everything went 150,000 over asking price, it was, you wouldn't even get a response. They would only counter, if they countered anybody, 1 or 2 people, because they were used to 20, 30 offers coming in. It took too long to counter everybody. So in that type of market, that's a strong seller's market. The buyers are just getting so disheartened for so long The second it flips, that's what I'm saying, where they smell blood. That's what we saw in 2018. And I saw buyers do crazy things that quick. I was like, wow. Okay, now you want everything, right? Now you want $80,000 or a reduction for 30-40K. We just opened escrow last week, but because somebody else who was scared on the seller side listed it for 40 under on the same street. Even though, and they didn't call you to find out what happened with your transaction. They just listed it. And then now that buyer, and this is a real situation, buyer just said, I want a $40,000 price reduction. That's what I'm talking about, smelling blood and opportunity. So we have to be very good, not just at communicating with our clients, but communicating with the other agents and really working together. It's not as much of this, even though we have a lot of this. You got to fight for your client, but we all have to work together to make sure that this closes. And on the listing side, as these agents, seeing how they operate, you're evaluating them. And if you get to a multiple situation, that percentage gets higher and higher on if Jesse's on the other end. And I know he's going to close the deal and I know he's going to lead his client and be able to overcome and not over negotiate the deal, right? It doesn't mean he's not going to fight for his client. I just know if I open an escrow with Jesse, it's done. We're closing this transaction. We know that about certain agents. We know that, okay? And that's where you got to be able to pivot. We got to be versatile. We got to know the market and we have to fight for our clients, but we also have to know that we're going to be able to close the deal. And it gets tough. It gets very challenging and it changes. You'll see agents who you've had good transactions with in the past, all of a sudden they're acting differently with you as well. And it's the time of the market. I've heard more and more stuff about, well, this agent's not even trying to show my property or allow me to show the property, or I've submitted an offer, now they're not calling me back. This is the stuff that's been going on since we've all started real estate, but it gets worse in markets like this because of desperation, because people are worried, when am I going to put my next deal together, right? So they start double-ended more. There's things that start happening. It's unfortunate. This is just the reality of it. So we got to be even better. We got to communicate better. We got to ask better questions. We got to close. And when we submit an offer, we got to call that other agent. And when another agent does it to me, I respect it. And they're like, okay, if we give you the terms that you're looking for, are you going to go forward with our offer? Don't just send it over. Don't just send the offer or the counter response over. Talk to them. Try to close them. Try to set it up for a close. You see what I'm saying? Try to get it there. More times than not, they're going to say, I can't promise you that. It's up to the seller. More times than not, that's going to be the response. But I've had it. You get us those terms, we're putting this deal together. It's like, cool, send it over. Now you know they're signing off on it. That's what you want, right? So we'll get more to that. Is there anything else? Got some good ideas here.
So I also am dealing with the issue of if I get a 30-day home of choice, they're actually leaving tomorrow for Texas for 10 days. So it also cuts into their home of choice. That's why originally the seller said if we get anything the first weekend, we still want to wait until the following weekend because we're not even in town.
So can you use that with the buyer's
That's what
agent?
Brandon was saying.
That's what I would use. I mean, and just really quick, so I had a cash buyer very recently. We offered over. We were there the first day. The buyer or the seller countered and said, we want to wait until the end of the weekend. Well, my buyer was not happy about that. And she pulled out and their other buyer pulled out and they sat on the market only for 2 weeks and then they got what they wanted, but it really left a bad taste in my cash buyers.
Right.
And I do write a quick on some of those. I'm gonna admit it. It is a dick move. It's bad, but it.
I do it.
But I do it. But I also-
Gotta be a thing.
but also, I try to be reasonable and if the buyer really wants it, are they gonna walk away? I say, I'll go back to them and say, if your buyer is serious about this house, please give us a little bit more time. I will try to get this past but just give us a little more time.
But I'll be doing an open house.
You will. No, you tell them that.
If you're engaging them. So counter, a nice counter, but at least you're engaging them and you're not saying we're not interested in your offer.
Right.
That's gonna buy you time.
Yeah.
They're not coming back for 10 days.
Yeah.
It is. Well, and I would tell them that, and that's a great point, and that's why we brought it up, is you have to start, and it's gotta be legit. It's gotta be legit reasons of why you need a little bit more time, right? Not making, because you can tell when it's foaming. And that just leads to bad taste, and then the buyers get upset and they bounce, they're out. But the one who wrote the 740 or listed 740 at 760 all cash, they came back at 790. Okay, so they did come back. But I tried to handle it as professional as I can, and she told me on the phone, she's all, look, I'm a closer. Said it flat out, and I said, I can tell. I can tell the way you wrote the offer, I can tell the way you're communicating to me, you're a strong agent. But I also, she was also vague when I asked for more time on a rent back. She never said, she's all, we're open to it, but she didn't say it was free. So I knew if we said yes to that, she was gonna be like, all right, we want PITI, where the other one did free rent back. Okay, so it's really interesting on how people engage. Go ahead.
Just one thing I wanted to add though too, that's in my mind, if I were in her situation. Is, you talk about like if something's on the market for 1 week, how overpriced it is if you haven't gotten any offers, and then at 2 weeks.
Right.
The percentage, wasn't it like 3 to 5% after a week?
No,
Which I-
wait, that was-
What was it?
Yeah, so it's based on what the average days on market is, and the average days on market is gonna start slowing down. It was picking up and it was getting shorter, now it's gonna start slowing down. So the average, and these are the numbers that you wanna know for each city. So for Camarillo, average is about 40 days on the market now. Okay, for average, for median, 14 to 17 days. So what that means, the median is more of an accurate number. Because the median is right in the middle of all the homes that are listed. Those are the ones that are going into escrows right at about 14 days, so 2 weeks. So 2 weeks is really the test, right? And you want to check for Santa Barbara, same thing. What's the average? 26 days. So you really shouldn't do a price reduction until 26, but we have to future pace our clients up front and tell them, look, on average, it takes 26 days for a home at this price point to go under
But in
contract.
26 days,
Right.
what percent, like say you didn't get another offer for 26 days, at what percentage
Would you drop it?
Well, because I'm wondering, because hundred
Based on
fifty
how
thousand
it's
is a
showing.
huge amount,
It
but on
is.
2.5. It's a lot, it's the
percentage?
percentage compared to 740 and 760, it's
So I
a
think
way
no
bigger.
offers is 7 to 10%.
If there's no showings and no offers, you're off by about 7 to 10%.
I just wouldn't wanna lose that buyer, is what I'm.
Right, no, I wouldn't
I
either.
wouldn't wanna lose
I
that
wouldn't wanna lose the buyer either, not in this market. Now with the rates doing what they're already
Percentage-wise, it's
starting to do, right? That
know.
cash, it is. That's why I would still be careful. I wouldn't play games with this agent, but I would talk to him and say, look, just hit the market. You put a short expiration on it, you wrote 150,000 under asking. Right? I'm doing what I can to try to help make a case for you, but you gotta work with me here. How can you help me make this work? And see what they said. So we need flexibility on the time frame. And we need flexibility on the price. Are you willing to work with us here? Because we're off by 150,000.
Yeah.
Make them work, put it back in their court
Mhm.
and let them tell you what they're gonna do. What are you gonna say?
And do you know how much they wanted to make off of this? Like,
Yeah.
what they were like.
Yeah,
don't-
I got a new net sheet, they're netting like 1.8.
On that?
1.7. Or on 1.4, they're netting like 1.6 and some change.
Okay, on 2.4.
Yeah,
2.4,
600.
yeah. Okay, on 2.4, yep, so
Yep.
2.4, they'll net about 1.6, yep.
I
I
would-
will also mention the fact that the buyers living for 10 days. So you can use that as what the seller is. So there, you can use it as a leverage.
Right.
Yeah,
I gotta have my seller over here in order to get the transaction going. He's going out for 10 days.
Mhm.
We need more time.
Right. Cause it's not gonna be able to look during that time,
So I just want to go back to the price reduction.
right?
So I understand the percentage of a reduction, but I always come at things from a marketing perspective.
Right.
To me, the most important thing would be to go down that next bracket where people do their searches.
Mhm.
So you're at 255,
Mhm.
I would go down
Under 2.5.
to under 2.5 or to 2.5.
That's right.
Yeah.
Period, I'm not gonna go down that, I'm not going down $200,000.
No,
So, and I'm just gonna share that, it's a competitive thing, but it's important to know where people are searching, how they search for homes. So when you go onto Zillow and Redfin, and this is where people are going, they have those drop down boxes. We're just gonna say 100,000, for your minimum, 200,000 for your maximum. If you price the house at 900, you were gonna price it at, you're gonna sell it for 100,000, or you want 100,000, but you price it at $99,000. People whose minimum is $100,000 will not see your listing. So that's retail pricing. We have to switch. We can't do retail pricing because people are dropping down.
Right.
Now, yes, you're gonna get the people who's max, but the minimum, if their minimum is 100,000 and you're pricing it at $999,000, you're missing that universe of buyers.
Right.
It's better to price it on the drop downs,
Right.
if you will, on those.
So
round
I did
numbers.
this listing here too, the one, they wanted 950
Uh-huh.
and, no, they wanted more than 950 to list, and I said, look, we're gonna be missing people that are gonna be putting their. Someone that's gonna looking at million, they're gonna be looking at million, and so.
Or even at 949, I wouldn't, people wanna say, oh, that sounds so much better, I wouldn't price it at 949. I would price it at 950, because that's not an option on the drop downs.
Yeah.
Well, I did
951,
950.
something like
That,
that.
no, but then you miss it. 950, you gotta do it on the rounds, cause you gotta catch them on both ends.
Well, this,
Mm.
maybe I need to correct this, so, I meant, my strategy was that when that drop comes down from 950, they're gonna look at things below.
I mean, it depends, people, if you put in your minimum and your maximum,
Right.
so again, if you priced it at 951, you're gonna miss
Correct.
The
the
950
maximum
and
of the
under.
950.
I like that. I've never thought
So
about
she's
that.
saying
I don't like to share that.
What's that? Zillow's by 25,000. So every 25K, that's
Yeah.
the number.
Okay.
That's the magic number. I like that. That's.
But Redfin as well.
I guess at 935.
Yeah,
Yeah, so 925 would be better than 935 because now you're getting both sides,
Okay, so
925
now- so
minimum,
the strategy price reduction here for me to go back to the sellers to price it somewhere about 920.
925.
920, not
No,
920.
925. I got the numbers, so you get both sides.
I would
So
just
that you
think
can
about
get
it from the
both.
high end, but I never think about it from
High
the low end
and-
like that.
Either minimum or their max.
Search bar.
Right.
It shows up on both of them. Because you can miss.
Yeah, because in search bar, when you do the drop down, do the ranges, it goes at a one.
25 on Zillow is what she pulled up.
So 925 is a good.
So I have a question, like, I think on the buyer side, buyer agent is pretty ballsy writing $150,000 under asking, I don't know if I would do that because it's kind of insulting.
It
So
can be.
it can be, so do you think
They're
that
gonna
the
be insulted.
do you think that the buyer, that's like the most they could do and they're coming in all cash, so they're taking that risk?
Yeah.
No.
They're
Well, of
checking.
course.
It's not in terms of most they can do.
They know it's a dick move. That's why I feel
Right.
throughout the
No,
expiration.
it's pressure. You can give 3 days. You wouldn't give 3 days on that, not if you're all cash. You're trying to get them to make a decision if they're afraid and get them and try to capture that. Even it's pressure.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're applying, if you play poker, you add chips to apply pressure to see who really has a hand and who doesn't, right? Because if they respond, they really got a hand, or they think you're bluffing, one of the two. It's the same thing. You're applying pressure by putting that expiration on it and seeing, okay, let's see how you respond. That's why they kept checking, any offers, right? That's why they're checking through the weekend, and then once they strike, now they're gonna see how you respond to it.
Usually cash buyers use that strategy because they wanna leverage the fact that they're buying cash.
Right,
Right.
that they're buying cash and time. Remember, time is actually, it hurts the seller. If they have no offers, every day on market hurts the seller for negotiation. They have offers, they want time, okay? Because the more time they have, the more opportunity that creates. Now they create a bidding situation. Now that seller's gonna get all the terms that they want. If they handle it the right way.
And
So-
then maybe that buyer's max, so it's.
It's
a
not-
matter
I got the
of
proof of
coming
funds.
and saying, okay,
Yeah, it's
take
not-
it or leave it,
it's-
like
yeah,
this
it's
is all we
not-
can do.
I got the proof of funds. He can't afford.
Yeah.
Over
You
2.5.
just still gotta be careful not to over negotiate it.
No, I'm not.
And let the sellers make the decision.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work out, it was their decision. You try to future pace them, you try to coach them.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell them, I'm gonna back you no matter what. I'm just sharing with you, we've still had a good amount of exposure. We gotta take this seriously.
Mhm.
And gotta see if they're willing to give us a little bit more time, right? Especially the 10 days, but the 10 days is your out. That's your excuse. And that's what you call them up and say, hey, look, my clients are actually gonna be out of town for 10 days. They can't even look for another property over these 10 days.
Yeah.
We need a little bit more time. You wrote a short expiration, you're willing to hang in there, and we'll talk again after next week, right? But they can walk.
Mhm.
You just gotta know it. So I'd probably do that conversation with a counter. And then find out from your sellers what they're willing to count on.
Okay.
Yep,
How's the inventory in Santa Barbara?
Very low. Santa Barbara itself only has like, I think it was detached homes.
Yeah.
Less than 40.
So you have room to negotiate then, right?
I do, it's just,
we just,
I don't know, it's
it's,
risky, man.
it's,
Don't wanna
it's
lose
tough. Well,
Yeah.
you don't wanna lose them. Plus, we don't know yet if 255 is the right number yet. We don't know it yet. And so the strategy, getting back to that as especially the agents who haven't heard this yet. Typically, if there's a lot of showings and no offers, you're off by about 3 to 5%, okay? So what we try to say is we need to get this list price to the sweet spot. Once we get it to the sweet spot, the showings will pick up and the offers will come in. But if we have very limited showings, like not very many showings that are happening and no offers coming in, we're off by about 5 to 7%. Okay? So that's like 2 to 3 showings in a week. Over the next 2 weeks, we're probably off by about 5 to 7%. So let's do the quick math on it just to see, since you have it, 2.5 million, 255, and
Mhm.
just do 5%. Just to see what 5% off is. What were you gonna say, Roberta?
I mean, like, we know the.
What's
we
that?
know the information.
$127,000 difference. Look what the offer is, 5% off. It's 5 to 6. It's not that far off when you're talking percentages. That's where you gotta be careful. Okay, what were you saying, Roberta?
Like, we know the statistics, the comps, everything.
Right,
Our client doesn't know,
Right.
right? So it's our job to
educate
play
them.
psychology with them, kind of like.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're in fear right now, so like, they wanna make sure they get the deal of the century, everyone does. But like, sometimes I find it like, I had the stubborn client sharing in Ventura, and we knew the house was not priced right. And, I kind of went in there and kind of like,
We had a grind to get the price down. We
Right.
were trying to educate the seller and we're trying to educate an attorney. for
Right.
The attorney. So it was a grind to get that price
Oh, yeah,
protection.
especially having an attorney and they're screwing it up, that doesn't help.
but when the client is like, you get to the client
Right,
and let them know, hey, your price is, it's over your own price, like.
right. That's what we're always working on, and that's what I'm talking about with this pricing strategy. We future pace the original listing presentation, okay? So if they wanna try high, we'll say, okay, we'll try it at this price. I'm sharing with you right now that if we don't see anything in 2 weeks, it's all based on the amount of showings we get. If we have no showings over the next 2 weeks, you're off by 7 to 10%. Are you agreeing that you will then price it at a price that will cause it to sell if that doesn't happen? And keep in mind, the list price does not mean that's what it's gonna sell at. But the longer we play the game of overpricing our property, and this is an important stat to know, last year on average, guess how much, it's ironic we keep saying 5%. The average property on a national average had to reduce their price 5%. This is before the market started taking off over the last month, 2 months. 5%. You want to know this number. So if you overpriced your home, you reduced by on average 5%. Okay, that's huge. That's the offer that's coming in right now. That she has right now. Now, let's say it is overpriced. This is gonna help her with anxiety. This is gonna build anxiety, right? Let's say she's overpriced and we negotiate hard and we say, no, sorry, we're not gonna consider it. We need more time. And that buyer walks away. And now we start chasing the market down. Okay, we may end up at that price and now they're writing lower than where because we're chasing it down. And this is what many sellers do. And I've drawn this picture for sellers. And where they're listing it at is up here. This is where the market's at. And this is the momentum of what's happening. Okay, so they should be here, but they're up here is where they're priced. Okay, so by the time they drop it down here, guess where it's at? This thing's down here now. This is where we need to be now. Does that make sense? So we got to get in front of that to create the value, which is the desirability a buyer has. There's only 2 ways to increase the desirability for a home. Price. It's got to be the most attractive price out there. You get it at the right price, that home's selling and the buyers are coming in. And now the pressure's on the buyers because they don't know how high they got to go. That's the pressure you want them to feel. As a listing agent, you want them guessing in, is 20 high enough? Is 50 high enough? Is 100 high enough? This is way underpriced. How high do I have to be? That's what you want the buyer's agents talking about. Not the opposite that, oh, this is overpriced. We got no competition. Let's write 150. Let's write 20 under. Let's write 75 under. Let's see. Oh, it's, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if they'll bite. Let's see if they'll do it. So when you're explaining to your sellers, you got to get out in front of it. Draw a picture for them. Show them. This is where you're at. This is what's happening with the market. On average, 5%. So 5% at 800,000, $40,000 difference. So if you started at, where were you at? 935, you had one offer, came in the low nines, right? That's probably, if it's me, and this is without knowing anything about it, I'm getting that property to 899, under 9, right? But following her strategy, 900 even. Okay, not 899, right at 900 even. Because now I'm getting to the point where I can push it up. It's either one or two. It's either gonna push up or 9's still too high. And then you realize that 908 was the best offer, right? But you're not gonna do the opposite. They have to feel, they gotta feel the pressure, and it's not our list price, it's our sales price that matters. It's what offers we actually generate that matters. So we have to educate our sellers that the list price does not equal sales price. Let me show you my stats. Let me show you the last 20 homes I've sold, list price for sold price, we're over 100%. Let me show you what's happening in the market today. List price for sold price is over 100% because there's no inventory. But you got to get it to the right price. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing under. What were you going to say?
So I have this exact situation right now. I just got a listing over the weekend.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. Village of the Park, if anybody needs anything. There's nothing on the market in there right
Is it
now.
a single story?
No. Sorry. I can get you one of those. So there's nothing on the market. The last homes that sold were the homes that were built in 2015, 16. This one was an original, so 2005, 6.
Yep.
The ones that were sold in 2015, 16, those went over 1.3.
Okay.
Like, and then the ones in this time frame, they're all under 1.2.
Okay.
My client is looking at Zillow, looking at, there's
Right.
another ownerly or whatever, because I want to price it at 1.2. Because I know it's gonna go over.
Right.
And he's texting me, he's like, we're gonna trust you, but we really think it should be priced higher.
Right.
And I told him I was having this meeting today, like, I am feeling a little insecure. Do you think that we should I let them have it at 1.2, 1225?
Is that what they want?
1.2.
They want 1225?
He thinks we should go higher. He didn't give me a price. I think he would, I would be
Well, first,
okay with.
find out what his number is. Ask him what number, when you say higher, what number is that? So see what he gives you with that.
Okay,
And then just share with them, say, this is my concern. We get one first impression. And the rates just went up. Right, and I gotta make sure that you're aware of that. And what that means is that affects buyer confidence. And as hot as things have been, we're getting to that part, and it's usually after 4th of July to about a month later that the market just, nothing happens typically. Now, this market is different, hopefully, and that's what Mike Ferry was talking about just not too long ago, because January, February, March, we had no activity happening. That's usually the hottest buying, selling season. So we're hoping that the next 3 months is gonna be the hottest buying season for us, right? But the challenge is these sellers are still holding off.
Right.
So there's a chance we can hit 4th of July, which is right around the corner, bless you. If we don't price it right, and we're trying to drop it at that point, and it just naturally slows down, we may miss the boat. We definitely know by September 1st, what happens. Yep, all the kids are back in school now. Anybody who's thinking about buying and selling, a lot of them pull off at that point, and now we got the worst part of the market in terms of inventory coming up at the end part of the year with the rates doing what they're doing. So it's the unknown factor is what puts the urgency on them, but in terms of pricing, you gotta lead them. So one of the notes that was triggered over here is very early, just with closing on the listing presentation. Sellers want an agent who will listen, but then take charge. Okay? Remember that. You're the expert. You're the professional. Okay? Because you could tell them to list at 1.2 and still nothing happens activity-wise. But if you go with their number first, You're gonna be like, I told you so, I told you, now you're gonna try to hit that 1-2, and we could be doing this. Starting at 1-2-3, going down to 1-2 when we should have started at 1-2. Now, by the time we get here, now they really need to be at 1-8. And I would tell them about on average, most of our listings nationally was about a 5% difference. 5% when they had to chase the market down.
There's no question it will sell for 1.2. It's a matter of how much more over.
Will they
it
go?
Will the buyers go? And I don't want to leave any money on the table. I know it will sell for at least 1.2. I think it'll go over. I want a bidding war, so it goes way up and we get the best offers. And they said they would trust me, but I just really wanted to get your thoughts, everybody's thoughts on, with the interest rates going up, that's kind of what.
Want to play it safer, you go to the 1-2. That's more gonna guarantee, especially if they're willing to follow your lead.
Yeah.
And just give it enough time. And you gotta set that expectation up front, that we need to give it at least a full 7 days. Okay, get past, I would try to get 2 open houses in if you can, the first weekend, and have it hit, like, I mean, I know we have caravan on Thursday, we usually do that, but you don't want too many days on the market.
They don't want open houses.
Oh, they don't, okay, well, that's gonna make
At
it
least not
tough,
this weekend.
and that's another one that you wanna try to overcome if you can. And
I'll do
but,
it the next weekend.
Okay.
That family.
well, if they'll do it next week, and then make it where it's, after that weekend.
Yeah.
In terms of when you're gonna review offers and your deadline, but you'll be good, I think you're gonna be good either way. So, but try to be strong with it, it's not worth taking the chance right now. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I just wanted to bring up the fact that, I don't know if this is gonna affect all buyers, but I've had a couple buyers tell me that the first 2 weeks of June is gonna be really busy for them because their kids, the end of the school year for their kids. And so they're kind of like, they don't wanna see, they're gonna be too busy to see properties.
Right.
So that's just my personal
It's
clients.
good to bring up,
But I just wanna bring that up, because I know kids get out between May and June.
right,
So I just wanna bring that up, especially for Camarillo, Ventura County area.
yeah, that's a good point.
That's what-
Very good point.
Yeah.
Any other things? This has been a great discussion too. I hope for our, our new people coming in.
Just like,
Go
I know
ahead.
that we talked a little bit about timeframes of when, what do you, I mean, the feedback here from anybody, what are you guys thinking that to be under contract from this point on before we start reaching the kids going back to school, families going on vacations? Because this really, I see a lot of turning point in September. That's really when things,
Yeah.
so should we be under contract before September or?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta
You
get
need,
settled.
you need to, and see, the old stats were showing, this is before, this is again, like. Getting back, I'm trying to remember the exact time frame. When I talk about that 5% price reduction. Most of the homes that went under contract did it in the first 21 days. So if you missed that 21-day mark, now you're hitting like 50 to 60 days as the average
That's what
days on
I'm worried
market. That's what you don't want to do. So you gotta hit you gotta get, and this is what I say, we're not at the sweet spot yet. We're not getting the showings, my phone's not ringing the way it should be. We gotta get to the sweet spot, okay? My recommendation, we get it to 900,000. That's way too low. We had 908, we had this. It's like, all right, well, we're trying to get out in front of it to create that demand going up. All right, it's just because we drop it to 9 doesn't mean that's what we're gonna take. But if we don't have a multiple offer situation, you're not gonna like what the end results are right now. So, pick the number, maybe 925. For me, I'm gonna go harder to try to get out in front of it because we see we're not getting the showings every day. Every day you should at least be having showings. Minimum 5 to 7 during the week. If you're not getting 5 to 7, you're not by the sweet spot. You're off by at least 3 to 5% minimum. So do 3% and figure out the math. 5, I know on 8 is $40,000. $40,000 difference is 5%. So if you're at 9, it's gonna be higher than that, right? 45K. So 45 off, that's getting closer to that 9 mark. So, and again, hopefully you do higher than that 908. Hopefully you get higher than the 908. But waiting, you're just doing the buyers a favor. And the days on market keep on, they're not gonna be coming in higher than where you're at. They're coming in lower unless you put the pressure on them. And that's why even I've done it in the past. You talk about a dick move. This is not a good move, right? But I've done it and it's worked. If I got a low offer and it's my only offer, I've gotten the listing agent to drop it to that price and put all the pressure on them, and they get pissed every single time. But guess what happens? I drop it. So if somebody writes a low offer on me, right? I've dropped it down to that price. Just it's like, okay, you're gonna put the pressure on me. Let's put the pressure on you. Bam, down to 908.
That is good.
I tried that, don't the salary.
Yeah. It puts pressure on them. You're already there. That's the offer you have in front of you. Drop the price. drop it. And then if nothing else comes in, that's your best offer, right? But that's cutthroat. That's putting pressure. Well, I'm just saying, what's worse than that is dropping under where they're at. Now they're really pissed, like, really, you dropped it under? And then I've had this happen, where the agent on the other side said, okay, we drop our price then down to 900. I said, okay, are you sure that's what you want to do? Yep, that's what we're gonna do. They missed out because I got other offers that came over that, right? And they thought we were playing games, so they tried to. So I'm not trying to teach everybody how to be cutthroat in here. What I'm talking about is how you put pressure in the situation based on where you're at.
Why doesn't Leanne?
Because sometimes you get it. What's that?
Why doesn't Leanne?
Because that's probably too low to drop it right now. There's still not, it's Memorial Day weekend. She hasn't had enough time yet. That's why it's hard. She's in a very tough position right there. It was hard with my lawnwood and I had another 25 showing set. I'm like, oh, is this the right move? His wife was ready to say yes at 760. She was good. So that's enough money for me. Like, you can't do it. I said, you got 40 showings set. I guarantee there's more. All I have to do is start calling these agents and offers are gonna come in. But I'm not even calling because I'm gonna see who's just gonna do it and submit. And they did. And we had 20 offers in 5 days. This was just less than a month ago. That's what I'm saying. It turns that quick.
Did they
So we gotta get out in
Did
front.
you get more money from it?
Oh, yeah.
Because there was 20 offers?
Yeah, no, we made more. So we made the right move, but you're gambling.
Yeah.
That was all cash at 760, 20 over ask. So it's a gamble. And so you got it, it's all based on what that situation is. But now I know we're getting close towards the end of it here. Is there anything else anybody, actually, it's already at 10:30.
Yeah.
That was good. I mean, we got into a lot of good topics and things. For the other agents, that we'll get into this. I know there's a beautiful drawing here. I hope you figure out how to.
Take pictures.
I don't want anybody to see my drawings. That's why I use this marker here. So. If anybody has to leave, they can leave. I'm gonna give just another quick 10 minutes. On phase 1, phase 2, because a question came up earlier and I said we would show them how to do choose me. So choose me is phase 1. Okay, so every seller wants to know what 2 things. What are the 2 things they want to know?
How much is the house worth?
How much is the house worth, right? Price, what else? Commission. What's your commission? How fast is an important one too. Okay, that's your days on market. Okay, so price, commission, they actually say market on this side, but I do market on phase 1. So the way I was taught is you don't talk about the market till you get to phase 2. Okay, so phase 1 is choose me. Phase 2 is when we start now talking about the price and the commission. So what many sellers want you to do is they want you to commit to, okay, how much do you think I can get for my house? And what commission do you charge right out the gate? That's their first questions for you. We don't answer that up front because if we do, we haven't done what yet?
We haven't created value.
We haven't created value. How do we create value? How do we get them to choose us, Silver? How do we create value?
You ask questions and find out what's important to them.
Yeah. So we ask questions and we discover, okay? And that's skipping to the second part, but we'll start with the tap here, but no, your answer's spot on. Then we give the blueprint, we cast a vision, we give them a map. We got to show them where we're heading in this presentation. Then the third thing that we're going to do here, so we're going to discover, as Silverio said, first we're going to discover what their needs, what their wants, what their expectations are, okay? Next thing, what do we do after needs, wants, expectations? What's the second thing we do in the listing presentation?
Close them.
We don't close them yet, but I like it, man. If you got enough equity in the bank, close them, right? If they're ready to get started, you sign the paperwork. But what's the second thing we do after we discover their needs, wants, and expectations, right? We're getting all the information from them. Then what are we doing? Remember? Come on, let's do. You know what I do to get home sold, plan of action, okay? So plan of action. This is what we do to get home sold, how we guarantee we're gonna get you top dollar, okay? Number third, we're gonna talk about the market. Where it is, where it was, and where it's heading. This is also how we overcome the objection of them waiting to list their home. This is also how they get to choose us and pick us right now because we are the market experts. This is being prepared, as Roberto talked about at the very beginning. This is doing your research and knowing the inventory that you're competing against, what your competition is, who are the other active properties, what's their situation, how many showings did they have that weekend? So if I'm competing with Leanne on that listing, or I'm taking a listing in that neighborhood, I'm gonna call Leanne up and say, hey, how'd it go this weekend? Did you get any offers? Did you get out asking price? Right? She's probably not gonna share a whole lot, but she may say, yeah, we had 60 people come through. We got a lot of activity. We should have more offers coming on the way. But that would at least tell me that that 255 still drew a lot of interest. Now, what if she did both of those open houses and nobody came in the first weekend? That tells in a whole nother story. So we got to get the information. We got to do the research so we can tell that story. And I said 10, so I got to make this quick. And then finally, it's the paperwork. Okay. So what I would start with in my introduction is TAP. Okay. So the very first thing Justin and I would start with, I would say, Justin, very nice meeting you today. Thank you for your time and allow me to be here to present to you. You got a beautiful home. And my promise to you is by the end of this presentation that you're going to see that I'm going to help you make the most money and walk away with the most amount of money from the sale of your home. Does that sound good? Great. All right, let's get started. So that's just the initial thank, acknowledge, and promise. You thank them for their time. You thank them for the opportunity. You acknowledge their property. If they don't have a beautiful home, then you acknowledge their time, right? Thank you for the time today, right? And then a promise. This promise becomes very important. That's your belief. That's your conviction that you're going to protect them. There's 4 key things, and these are the 4 pillars we talk about that every great listing agent does. You've all heard it multiple times, I'm hoping. Consult and advise, market and expose, negotiate the best terms, and oversee the transaction. Those are the 4 things you do as a listing agent with everything that you do. Okay, that's called a soundbite. Soundbite, really quickly, you can spit it out. And you can say, these are the things that I'm going to do. When they say, or you ask the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what do you think a great agent should do when they sell your home? And you see what they say. They don't know much. They'll say maybe some open houses, maybe put a sign out, maybe put it on the internet. That's about it, right? So we joke and tell them the 3 Ps. You're going to put a sign out in the front yard. You're going to put it on the MLS. Then you're going to pray that that house sells, right?
What's the last pillar?
Oversee the transaction.
Thank you.
So, and I'll say those 4 just to do how I do that soundbite. Okay. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, may I share with you what I do to sell homes? Yes. Okay. First, I'm going to consult and advise you. I'm going to take the guesswork out of real estate. This is a very complicated process. I'm going to guide you through this very complex process. So every benefit, you give 2 bullet points under it. That's it. Then you go to the next. Can't overtalk it. Okay. Number 2, my job is to market and expose the property. The great news is you're with Century 21. We're a global company. Okay. Most recognized name brand for over the past 4 years. When people see a Century 21 sign, they know your home's for sale. Just like Coca-Cola, you see a Coca-Cola sign, you know that brand, you know what kind of product you're going to get. That's how it is with C21. The other great news, and this is given more, right? These are different things you can say. When you list a home with C21, you're on century21global.com. Your home is advertised to every continent. We have over 86 countries that we have companies in. And then I'll ask them, where do most foreign cash investors come from? They'll say China. Say, we have over 1,000 offices in China. Your home is going to be translated into 18 different languages and 4 different currencies once you hit the market expose with us. Is it Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Is that what you're looking for in terms of exposure? Are you looking to cast the biggest net possible in terms of reach? Or do you want to work with a company that you haven't even heard of their name? You're not familiar with them, and they may have a local presence, but nobody knows if they're coming from out of state or they're coming from out of this country, what that sign even means. They've never heard of your company. Can you see the concern with that, right? So this is how we get them to choose us. We're not trying to badmouth anybody else, but we are creating some doubt in terms of who they're going to have backing them up. And that's how we can speak with that, okay? So number 3, when I talk about market and expose, negotiate the best terms, I'm going to say something. It is my duty, it's my stewardship to protect your hard-earned equity that's in this property, okay? That's my duty. So not only am I going to negotiate the best terms up front and try to get you the highest offers, we have to make sure it's the strongest buyer, because not always the highest offer is always the best buyer. We've learned that. We've seen that, right? So we have to vet these buyers. and we work with professional lending team that will help us make sure that we're working with the strongest buyer possible so that we can hopefully just close this transaction on the first time. This is another future pace we set with them, okay? So after I talk about negotiating the best terms, then I'm gonna get down to oversee the transaction. Did you know on a national average, every home has to sell twice? Future pace. So if it falls out, you're already ready for that. That also helps you on taking the listing now, because now we gotta give the average days on market, 30 days for the first one. If that one falls out, another 30 days after that, that's 60 days, plus 14 days if you listed it right and got it under contract quick. So that's 74 days. Because I gotta sell your home twice, potentially, on future pace in that, okay? Because people get cold feet, or the rates went up, or whatever happens, they lost a job, and now this deal canceled. Now it's not me failing, I've already set that expectation. More times than not, right, it's not gonna fall out of escrow, but when it does, now I'm not the bad guy. Now, as I talked to you about, on average, we have to sell each home twice. Now, you don't need to pay me commission twice, I only get paid once for this being worked the proper way, okay? So we talk about that. The other thing with overseas transaction, over 150 phone calls take place from now to when we successfully close your transaction. You're setting that, they don't know how much work we're doing. They don't realize we're talking to the loan officer, the escrow officer, the title officer, right? Helping with insurance, we're helping with the home inspector, we're setting the home inspection up. Oh, well, now this came up, now we need sewer lateral, now we need chimney, now we need, a roof inspection. They don't realize how complicated this process is. That's why they're pushing back on the commission. When you do a great job of a great presentation and you walk them through what should be discussed and ask the right questions, there is no objection at the end on your commission. There is no objection on them selecting you. They're like, Luciano, you're obviously great at what you do. That was an amazing, so much better than I ever expected sitting down to meet with you. Let's get started. Let's go. What do we sign? And it's that easy. It gets that easy when you get to it. Price is not an issue with me anymore. Commission is rarely an issue with me anymore. And I'm not saying that people still don't push it. I just have a better commission story is what I call it. You got to have a great commission story. You got to have a great pricing story. It's persuasiveness by asking great questions. They're stuck in a certain frame of mind. They're stuck on commission. I'm not gonna pay 6% commission. This is what I got $1 million home. I got a $2 million home. I got a $5 million, whatever, right? I'm not gonna pay this much in terms of commission. That's where they're stuck. Great agents help change their perspective by asking great questions. You got to ask great questions to help change their perspective and show them that their limited thinking is going to cost them tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. That's what we have to do. And that's what we got to sharpen. So we'll just end on that. I know we already went over the time. We'll get into more on the listing presentation, but welcome for those of you that have joined us. Excited to have you guys here, and Jesse's office is going to be right down the way over here. So we'll get you started, and just be patient with us. We're still getting internet things going, man. So we'll make it happen, but excited to have you join us, and Roberta as well. I'm excited to have you join us, and Justin, when you pass your test, and we can talk before then too, with some tips on that.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome, guys. Thank you all for coming and joining. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, how are you?